Hello and welcome to your pre-class video for trinomial factoring part 1. We're going to spend a few days on this. By the time that you see this document, there will be a link to click to watch this video. You're now watching this video and doing some kind of freaky time traveling. I don't know what's going on. Pre-class assignment, we'll take a look at this after we're done. You should be familiar with how these work. So last time in class we were finding greatest common factors. We factored expressions by factoring out greatest common factors, and then we did factoring by grouping to end up class last time. We have 4 objectives for trinomial factoring. In this video we're going to look at factoring trinomials with coefficient 1 for the second degree term, and then in class tomorrow we're going to look at when that coefficient of the second degree term is not 1. But let's start out today by looking at a familiar problem from days gone by, x plus 2 times x plus 5. And you may wonder what this has to do with factoring trinomials. Well, let's take a look. X plus 2 times x plus 5, we know how that works. X times x is x squared. X times 5 is 5x. 2 times x is 2x. 2 times 5 is 10. Remember, some of you like to use the FOIL method to do this. I prefer just to think about using the distributive property. It's x squared plus 7x plus 10. Now, the reason that we did this is to go back and explore exactly where some of these numbers come from in this thing, which is a trinomial, the kind of thing that we're going to try to factor today. Where does this 10 come from? Well, from these binomials, 2 times 5 equals 10. And the 7, where does that come from? Well, 2 plus 5 equals 7. This is a little bit of the factoring game that we're going to be playing, is when we have something like this, and we want to get back to our binomials. So we're taking a trinomial going back to binomials. The last number is going to be the product of the two numbers that we're looking for to go in the blanks here. And the middle number is going to be the sum of those two numbers. So we're kind of playing a little number game to do this factoring. Okay, so a little bit of definitions here before we get going. A trinomial is an algebraic expression of 3 terms. That is pretty generic. Specifically, when we're talking about factoring trinomials, we're talking about trinomials of the form ax squared plus bx plus c. So these are the things that we're going to be looking at factoring, at least for now. There are some special cases we'll look at later that don't exactly look like this, but this is what we're looking at. And then today we're focusing on ones of these where the a coefficient is 1, so we're actually factoring things of the form x squared plus bx plus c. So something that we know, trinomials of this form factor into 2 binomials, x plus blank and x plus blank, where the numbers in the blanks must, well, they have to multiply to c. We figured that out in example 0. And they have to add to b. So multiply to c and add to b. So let's look at example 1, x squared plus 8x plus 7. Okay, for x squared plus 8x plus 7, we know this is going to factor into 2 binomials, x plus blank and x plus blank. And this one is relatively easy because 7 is a prime number. And there's really only one way to multiply to 7. Well, 1 times 7. There's also negative 1 times negative 7, I guess. But we're looking for the way to do this so that the numbers that I multiply to 7 also add to 8. Well, that is going to be positive 1 and positive 7. We have successfully factored. You can double check your factoring by redistributing. You get x squared. You get 1x and 7 more x, that's 8x, and you get 1 times 7 is 7, so this totally works. Okay, let's take a look at example 2, x squared minus 5x plus 6. And example 3, x squared plus 6x minus 55. So we're going to do the same thing. We have 2 blanks here. And I'm going to go ahead and put plus signs. If we need negative numbers, we'll deal with that. We need 2 numbers that multiply to 6 and add to negative 5. Well, the ways to get 6, I can do 1 and 6, or their negative versions. I can do 2 and 3, or the negative versions. So these all multiply to 6, and I need to add to negative 5. So that's going to be these two. So this is x plus negative 2, x plus negative 3, which we'd probably write as x minus 2, x minus 3. And again, you could double check by redistributing or foiling to check your answer, but it's totally right. Okay, so this game is relatively easy to play. The only way to make it a little more challenging is just to make the numbers larger. So we have a 55 down here, and we know what we're trying to do. I have two numbers that go here, and those numbers have to multiply to negative 55 and add to 6. So first let me think of ways to multiply to 55. 1 and 55. So to get negative 55, I would either have to have negative 1 and positive 55, or 1 and negative 55. Neither one of those is going to add to 6, so that's not going to work. 55 is divisible by 5, however. So 5 and 11. I could have negative 5 and positive 11, or positive 5 and negative 11. And this one actually works. Negative 5 plus 11 is 6. Negative 5 times 11 is negative 55. So our factoring is x plus negative 5, x plus 11. Which again, I would probably write x minus 5, x plus 11. Okay, so there is a little brief introduction to trinomial factoring. So where do we go from here? Well, right now you need to complete the pre-class assignment. We will go take a look at that in just a second. And tomorrow I will bring the rest of these notes in for you, and we will continue to look at more trinomial factoring, including what happens when this number out in front, the first coefficient, is not a 1. But for now, let's take a look at this pre-class assignment. So first off, a reminder, as always, please write your work down and bring it to class so we can talk about it. You have 5 questions to answer. This is the best I could do on here for x squared. So that's a pretty common thing. This looks just like the exponent button on your calculator. So this is x squared plus 5x plus 6. So 5 problems, or actually 4 problems, for you to practice factoring. Once you do those, and you have to answer them all, so even if you can't get them, just type something in the blank, but try to get them. If you click next, the answers are on the next page, and then there are some questions that you need to answer. That is it. I hope this didn't take you too long, and I will see you in class tomorrow.